Welcome to our video on check writing. The check writing window allows you to create a single check, an EFT payment, or batch several checks to print all at once. You can also reprint checks using this window. First, select the checking account you wish to use and click the Tab key on your keyboard. Tabbing allows you to move quickly to the next fillable field. To check the fund balances for this account, click Balance. Next, select the vendor. We have added a Smart Select feature so you can begin typing in the name of the vendor and it will populate into the vendor field. The great thing about choosing a vendor is that the system will track the history and show previous checks in the top right under Vendor History. If the vendor has not yet been added to Icon, click Add Vendor. Vendors are required so payment information can be easily tracked for reporting purposes. Next, enter a check memo. The check number will automatically populate based on the checking account you've selected. The check number can be changed. However, the system does check for duplicate numbers and will give you an error if a number has already been used. When electronic fund transfers or EFTs occur, you can remove the check number and EFT will populate. Enter the date and the dollar amount of the check and click Tab. The distribution line populates below. Because this is a new vendor, you have to select the fund and account you want to use. The fund, account type, and account fields are all searchable. When you tab into or click into a field, you can begin typing the name of the account or fund that you want to use on your keyboard to pull up a shorter list of results. Then you can use the arrows on your keyboard to move through the shortened list and hit enter on your keyboard to make your selection. The fund and account information will be remembered by default the next time you use this vendor. If everything is distributed correctly, the amount to distribute at the bottom should be 0 in both columns. If you want to print this check, mark the box for Print During Post and click Post and Print. A PDF of the check will be created for you to print. You should see a message that says Posting Complete. Because we checked the box on the last check, Print During Post, the system will remember that setting while we are working in this window. Now that we have covered the basics, let's review some additional features on this window. If you have recurring transactions or transactions that are similar from month to month, you can click on a previous check in vendor history and the information will populate to the fields on your current check to make for quick entry. For example, I'm going to choose my telephone company vendor and select the last check written for this vendor out of the vendor history section. You can see that choosing the previous check populated the dollar amount and the offsetting account and fund. If this is an EFT instead of a check, I can remove the check number and EFT will populate. You will notice that when entering EFTs, there is no option to print as you can only post EFTs. Let's say that the amount owed has increased by $5. I can change the dollar amount on the check to reflect this increase. When I change the dollar amount, you can see that the amount to distribute shows $5 left. This is because I need to change the debit amount to match the total of my check. Once I've made that change, the amount to distribute is 0 and I'm ready to post. Now, let's go through having multiple disbursements and non-expenditure line items. In my example, I went to Target and spent $400, $200 on groceries, and $200 on supplies. I can choose my groceries expense and change the auto-populated number to 200. Notice that the amount to distribute at the bottom of the window shows $200. This means that I still need to distribute the additional $200. To add a new line of distribution, click on the plus sign. Choose a fund and account and enter the $200 into the debit field. Now my amount to distribute is 0. You will not be able to post a check until the amount to distribute is 0. Our next transaction is going to involve a liability account. You can change your account type to liability and pick the account that you want to use. Because we are adding a liability account, we will need to enter a credit instead of a debit. To add the credit field, click on the three dots on the right side and check the box for credit. Once you have added the credit field, it will remain on your window unless you remove it. Type the dollar amount for the liability into the credit field and tab. Add another line for an expenditure to make the amounts to distribute zero on both sides. If everything looks correct, you are ready to print. Lastly, you have the option to batch print checks. You would enter the check the same way as when you would write a single check. The only difference is that instead of checking the box for print during post, we're going to leave that unchecked and click post. The numbers on the left side of the window show the check number starting and the check number ending for the checks that are not yet printed. When you have added in the checks that you need to enter, you can click on Print Checks. A message will appear asking if you want to print check number blank to blank. If that is correct, click OK. This is also how you would reprint checks. If you need to reprint one check, enter the check number into the first field. If you want to print a range, enter the range in the fields and click Print Checks. A pop-up will appear asking if you are sure this is what you want to do. Click OK. Thanks for watching.